Hey guys, I'm John.
And I'm Alton.
And we have Barbara with us again. She's going to join us for this show. We are going to actually talk about good and bad versus the television. How much problems you might be having watching so much TV, or maybe it's good. We'll get into that, but before we do, make sure you click like and subscribe to our channel. Also, our social media, we've got some crazy things, and maybe you'll get some plan C options down here from Barbara, and we'll see what we can get into.
Everyday life issues broken down to help you build your own opinions on the issues that matter most. Coming to you from Austin, Texas, this is The Deciding Factor with your host, Alton Hill and John Herzog.
All right, so television. Television is the topic of the day. And I'm going to say I watch too much of it already. I know Alton doesn't watch a thing because we can't ever have a conversation about TV or movies. And I tell you what, man, one of the best things about not watching too much TV, though, is going outside and doing some things with your family and friends. I did that this past weekend. My sister came in from Virginia. And so we were all having fun outside, and we were playing some baseball with the kids, me and my brother-in-law. And so he's trying to strike the kids out, like throwing fastballs and everything. And I'm playing catcher. And he throws one, and my oldest daughter, Katie, right? She swings for it. She's been hitting home run after home run. She swings for it, ticks it, and bam, right in the throat, and I dropped to the ground. Oh, nice. It was painful. It was a tennis ball, but it still hurt because he was throwing it so hard and she ricocheted just perfectly right into the Adam's apple. So it's like trying to readjust your Adam's apple as you're laying on the ground crying from your daughter. But that was the fun that I've had recently. How have you been, Barbara?
I've been pretty good. Yeah, I was going to say my fun was today. I got just the best email. It was just fantastic. I had filled out a profile somewhere, and I guess I was a little too honest. And I got this email response like, I think we're supposed to be best friends. I think we are soul sisters. And she's like 65, maybe, right? She's about my mom's age. And it's this fantastic email, and I'm just feeling great about it. And I respond. I looked this morning. There's an email, and she's telling me that she's had this very awkward moment. She's brushing her teeth last night, and it's in slow motion as she's looking at herself in the mirror, and she realizes that when she entered my birth date, she's like 1984. Oh, crap. I have a daughter born in 1983. I am old enough to be your mother. I mean, it's funny by itself anyway, but I found myself thinking, like, how old did you think I was when you saw a picture? That makes me uncomfortable that we seemed like we could be besties.
They mistaken your blonde hair to bright white hair? Is that what it is?
I don't know. It's a question I'd like an answer to a little bit. But.
Well, enter the podcast, and then you'll get your answer at the end.
There you
go. Gray is fashionable these days, isn't it?
It is, actually. Yeah.
Yeah,
yes. Gray is the new black, or orange. Sorry, orange.
Orange? What?
You would know if you watched enough TV, but...
okay. That's a TV joke. Roger that. Yeah, I was going to say, I always like to make people guess when they're trying to figure out my age. Like Heather and I, we just had our anniversary, and we're at this really nice restaurant, and I'm sure most people are like, it's like, I don't know, probably mature people go there. Well, this girl runs up, and she's like, oh, why are you here? And we're like, well, it's our anniversary. She's like, oh, how many years now? And I'm like, how many do you think? And she's like,
30.
I mean, it just locked her up. She was like, I don't know, I'm 7, because she didn't want to make it seem like we were too old, I suspect. Yeah. And I was
right
like,
answer.
I said, that's not even close. And she, like, legit, she wouldn't even answer it. But, I had my awkward moment right there in the beginning, so I was good. It's good.
So Barbara, I know he's not a TV watcher. What about you? Do you watch a lot?
I'm just thinking about this. When we brought up this question, I started thinking about, okay, like how much do we watch, and what do I consider TV? We've actually, in the years we've been married, have never had TV reception, like old school ability to flip channels, but we have, we've done movies, and we've done, I think right now we've got like the Netflix and Amazon and things like that. So I feel like the kids are probably at 2 hours a day, like some in the morning, some in the afternoon. I like to watch at night though. When we were first married, we insisted like, we will grow up at some point and we'll stop doing this. But we started eating dinner in front of a movie every night. Like it was just like our newlywed thing. And it's been 16 years now and we still do it. We put the kids to bed. I read to them while they eat dinner. We eat dinner after they're in bed. And that's like our time to unwind. And so, we watch TV.
Yeah, I do the same thing. It's bedtime. We go down, we lay in bed, we watch TV. I make her rub me, and sorry, wrong type of like rub your feet.
Mind out of the gutter. Got it. Yep.
Just clarify that this is not a XXX rated show here. But it's funny that you mentioned that time frame because as far as the Bureau of Labor of Statistics, which is the BLS, they actually state that the average person in the U.S. watches 2 hours and 34 minutes a day. This statistic was, done through 2013 through 2017. And believe it or not, men watch more than women. I guess to some, that's probably not a shocker. What would you say, Alton?
Man, I'm not shocked about that. My wife always seems pretty busy with the kids. But, I was thinking like, when did Netflix come out?
Ooh.
Do we know when Netflix came out?
Got to be at least 20 years.
20 years?
Don't you think?
So I started getting some of those DVDs in the mail around 2005-ish,
Oh.
I think.
I totally forgot
Okay.
about the DVDs. That's what Netflix was, right? It was a DVD thing. I guess I meant the streaming thing. I'm thinking what, 2010-ish? Is
Probably.
that crazy?
That's probably
Mhm.
about the range.
So then the stats that you're quoting are after this, right? Because I feel like TV is kind of morphed into this. What's that? The new series is called The Chosen. It's about Jesus. Well, they're selling hoodies and shirts that says binge Jesus, right? But like, when did we ever say binge watch TV until Netflix? And so I feel like, I've heard some of the people talk about how when the TV went off at 10 o'clock or whatever, right? And it's just the bar. So I don't remember that, but apparently you couldn't watch TV in the middle of the night at some point. Now we can just watch entire series in a night. So
Did you get that from my my Facebook post?
I'm sure I would have if I read it.
Okay, gotcha. You can tell I'm important here. No, actually, so a lot of the statistics were stating that a lot of the big factors are the location you're at, the age you are. It also has to do with gender and employment. Employment was a big one, right? So you got the retired people, which obviously means, the 2013 through 17 statistics are going to be kind of skewed because of the coronavirus in 2020. So it'll be interesting to see how much more that spikes. But even when you look at like 2015, 97% of the households had a TV in it. And in fact, the average was 2.3 TVs per household, which, I can't have less than one TV. So 2.3 is kind of weird, but.
Although I'm officially curious. I'm like, so who gets the 0.3? Like, so sorry. You get to watch the first 15 minutes of the news every single night, and then you're done.
No, you just get like a quarter screen, and we'll take the other quarter screen and the other.
No, but so like the northern states, like Alaska, all the Rocky Mountains, they all had 2.5 hours of TV that they'd watch per day or less. But then when you got to the southern states like Texas and Florida and all that, it was over 3 hours on average. So I'm wondering, is it because they have no reception in those areas, or are they like more homestead type areas? What is it?
That's a good question. I mean, when I think about moving to the mountains, I think about a lot of outdoor activities, right? Like you don't move to the mountains to just, get cabin fever, I would suspect. Like you want to be out mountain biking, skiing, or hiking or whatever. But I don't know. That's interesting though, for sure.
That's funny. I was going to guess the opposite with the demographic because I figured, the further up north you go, we did a stint kind of near Canada, and it's so dark. Like it gets dark
Yeah.
early in the day. Sun doesn't come up till later. I was assuming that it was like used as a comfort mechanism in the dark. So I was wrong on your demographic.
Yeah. So then what would you both think? Would it be the younger age range that watches more or the older age range that watches more?
I bet it depends on whether or not we're talking like old school TV, like looking at cable, or something streaming off a phone.
Well, so the statistics I have is on TVs only currently.
Okay. Then I'm going to guess older watches more.
What about you, Alton?
I mean, I think that definitely like a retiree makes sense. But then I also think that I probably watched more TV when I was younger, like before I had a job. So I don't know how young these stats go, but.
So they actually kind of cut it off. It was the 15 to 19-year-old range. They all watch, like 72.6% of them watch TV every day. The older age range, though, they hit 89.2%. And they actually hit over 7 hours a day watching TV.
Yeah. Well, when you're older, you're like less mobile too, right? So it's not like you're going to, oh, look, it's sunny, I'm going to go hike in the mountains. So that's probably some of that, I would suspect, or maybe even sick. My grandfather, he had knee replacement, hip replacement, and he's not running around outside. So,
yeah. I mean, you also got to think it depends on the time, right? Is it nighttime, daytime, weekend, day? Those all play a factor. So, I mean, because if kids are in school, then you can't watch much TV. Of course, active kids versus active adults, probably not so many adults being very active. I mean, I'd go fishing if I could all day, every day. But,
I wonder if it's a larger commentary, though. As you think about, if we're saying that it's largely our retired population that's watching the bulk of the television, I wonder if that's kind of shining a spotlight on breakdowns in how we do family now. Like we are so often not multi-generational homes, and so it does kind of feel like we are setting up that generation. Like you've had your decades of usefulness, and now you're done. As opposed to I think when it used to be more common to have the grandparents living with the parents and then with their kids, where I feel like I just wonder, like, are we maybe not taking as good a care of our elderly just as a country, as a community?
well, so actually, most people do not watch TV alone. It's actually one of the statistics that they quoted is it shows all these different graphs, and people actually for alone activities is playing on the computer, doing things on there. That doesn't even include video games. So that's just like YouTube, searching the web, probably doing some other things you probably shouldn't do. But, TV in general, over 50% of it is done watching it with someone. It's just kind of like our story, Barbara, where, at nighttime we spend our time with our spouses watching TV and what. So
yeah. I wonder about what the statistics are versus Facebook, social media. I mean, I'm sure you can watch a show and scan your social media feed, but, pre-internets where you weren't spending time on Instagram, Pinterest, Amazon, Facebook, TikTok, all of these, I wonder how that affects the TV. But, when I got my first house, I was really excited. I was like, I'm going to go buy a huge TV. And I went and spent probably almost a month's paycheck or something on some huge 60 plus inch. It's like the rear projection TV. And this was like right when HD came out. And so it just looks so good. I got the biggest TV Like I calculated it all out. You know, what is the biggest TV that I can get the maximum resolution from whatever the distance is from my couch, right? Because like you can get one that's too big and now it doesn't look as good, right? Because like the pixels are stretched out. So, and man, I crawled up in my attic. I did the surround sound, so I had these like back speakers and whole thing, and then I got the the direct TV or whatever it was, right? The cable with the million different channels. And so Heather and I, this is pre-kids, you know, we'd just sit there and we'd watch some TV, and then I'd find myself, there was a few times where I literally scanned the channels for 30 minutes because I couldn't find something that I wanted to watch. Well, now it's like Netflix, right? You can just go pick something. But then I was scanning this thing and I'm like, all of these channels, and I don't want to watch any of this stuff. And so when I moved out of that house, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to try to move this old TV. So I gave the TV to my dad and I went without a TV for, I guess, I got to say, I mean, at least 6 years, maybe closer to 10 years, I think. Yeah, probably like 10 years I went without a TV.
Wow. That's a long time. I mean, I grew up with them. I still have them. In fact, I've got 5 of them in the house. Sad to say, but you know, it is what it is. We play Xbox, we watch TV, we watch movies and YouTube and all sorts of fun stuff. But you know, seeing that we went over some of these big stats, obviously TV watching is very important. In fact, I believe the U.S. is one of the leading ones as far as how much TV is watched per hour per day, and it's kind of scary. So the question has come up between me and Alton, and it's: are we watching too much TV? Should we cut back? What are the benefits? What are, you know, are we losing something if we stop watching it? You know, and I guess that's kind of where this needs to go is what are your opinions on it? What have you noticed? Now, Alton, you obviously don't watch TV, and if you do, it's very rare, very rare. So, what have you noticed in your lifestyle versus maybe what you've seen with others?
I guess I was when I just gave the TV to my dad and I moved, I was like, you know, I'll get another one when the time's right. You know, it wasn't like I had decided, but I was like, you know what happened? Honestly, I grew up playing football, love watching football. And of course, the stupid Dallas Cowboys. I hope there's some Dallas Cowboy fans listening.
Hey, they won.
I mean,
they won this week.
I dressed up like a Dallas Cowboy for Halloween. I mean, I'm as Texan as they come. I played football. I'm all in. So Heather and I, we're single, we're young. We're like, all right, Sunday night football, right? Cowboys are playing, and they just would suck. I would go to work mad on Monday. Heather and I would go to bed angry after watching this. Now, I'm sure there's people who are much more mature than I am. You can watch a TV and go, it's the stupid Cowboys, and go to sleep. But, you know, and I'm talking like full sober and everything. Like we'd just be mad at the stupid Cowboys. And then so I'm picking up on that, right? And then I'm scanning through the channels and I'm like, I just wasted 30 minutes of my life looking for something to watch. And so I started to get these ideas like, maybe TV isn't serving me like I think it is, you know? And just to be clear, like I have a TV now. I've really got it to be a babysitter. But Heather and I we'll sit down and watch a couple of Netflix shows, what we want to watch, right? Which I think is key. But I found that in a lot of ways, TV wasn't serving the life that I want. It was affecting my mood and it was wasting a lot of time. And so to me, that's a danger that you call it a program, right? I don't think the Dallas Cowboys are a program, but I think definitely you have to be careful with what you're watching because it will affect how you're looking at the world and your attitude. And if you're trying to accomplish something in life, you know, that TV is a real leak in your effectiveness, right? Like it's draining your efficiency, I think.
Yeah. I mean, TV watching is the most leisure activity that everybody does every day. So, I mean, Barbara, do your kids watch it every day? A lot of times, seeing that they're homeschooled.
Well, okay. The way that we have viewed it, I was laughing thinking about the setup of the TV because it sounds so amazing. My poor kids, we have like this old hand-me-down television, and the only way that they can actually access like streaming anything is for me to take my little fake laptop over and like plug it in with a big bulky cord. It's very old school. Like all it needs is like a gnome cranking things to make it work, to make it more authentic. But the kids really, it exposes so much. What we watch exposes so much about who we are, right? And so kids television, yeah, I think it gets used as a babysitter. And I mean, there's definitely times that it's like, okay. I can see it being used for my kids where it's like, you need to stop moving, right? Like you need to unplug for a second. So you're going to sit and kind of like reset. So I'd say that, yeah, they watch a little bit in the morning, but I'm pretty controlled about what they watch. And I can see this as a good and a bad. I was thinking about this. Do I land in the pro or the con? The pro, I would say, is that my kids have been introduced to cultural things that I like that they know. They watch the Carol Burnett show at lunch every day. They've watched Dick Van Dyke. There are all of these parts of our culture from years past that I like them knowing. I like that they're developing that kind of humor, right? That they're able to pick up on that kind of humor. The downside is if I'm not paying attention and I think, oh, it's PBS Kids. This is pretty safe, right? It's like, what could be wrong with PBS Kids? A lot could be wrong with PBS Kids. It turns out that there's always an underlying assumption in the show. One of the ones that I realized early on, I don't know if your kids ever watched this, but there was a cartoon version of a set of books, the Max and Ruby books. Have you heard of these? They're bunnies, okay? Like it should be so harmless. It's like the big sister bunny and the little brother bunny. But little brother bunny is a jerk. And he gets away with it. And that's the end of the episode every single time. I'm like, this is not a morality tale. This is like an anti-morality tale. Like, don't be like Max. But when my kids would watch this, I would start seeing interactions between them. They're like, we don't do that. We don't talk that way. So I feel like in our house, I definitely view it as a tool. I think that it's like all tools, right? If you're going to hand your kid a hammer or a screwdriver, you're going to tell them like, this could put your eye out or it could build a table, right? And that's how I feel about TV. So, and I think that I think it's true for kids. I think it's true for adults. I definitely think it's true in my own life. It exposes what I'm drawn to. It exposes what I think about the world and what I want to be consumed by based on where I click.
Well, me and my wife, we always got in this argument because I grew up loving SpongeBob, and apparently 15 years later, it's still popular and my kids like it. And, before we got married, her kids weren't allowed to watch SpongeBob. And so I brought it into their lives, and she's still not happy about it. But the thing she kept saying was, SpongeBob makes kids dumber. And I'm like, wait, what? Are you calling me dumb? Or
you're like, I can't follow. I watched it for 15 years. What?
No comment, Alton. No comment.
Just here with my popcorn.
So it bugged me. So then I got my nerd on to try to find out what was going on. So the article that she had read did say SpongeBob. The problem is when you look at the actual study, it's about cartoons in general that jump scene to scene very fast. It does affect their brain, and it actually makes it worse for them. They even go as far as saying that 9 minutes of a show like SpongeBob can still show some effect. And I think they were quoting something like 10% decrease in brain function.
That makes total sense to me. Can I add Napoleon Dynamite to that? Because I think
Oh,
I made
come
it like
on.
10 minutes in, and then my ears, like, is that my brain just leaking out my ears? Just gone. Anyway.
I was so amazed. It wasn't the content. It was the fact that it's jumping scene to scene to scene.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm ADHD. Screw it. I can handle this.
I think when you read these stats, I mean, there's all sorts of stats. Well, let me back up. Any statistic can be used to manipulate your own bias and your own agenda. There's data, and then there's statistics on it, and you have to draw a conclusion, right? Which is why we have this show. Like, let's talk about the data, let's talk about stats, but then let's look at it from a real world perspective, or at least our own bias, and be honest about what our own bias is. And I think that, like, talking about making you dumber, okay, great, maybe it's true, but like, I played football and I've had countless concussions. I'm sure that wasn't helping my IQ, but it doesn't just mean that, well, you shouldn't ever play football or ride a motorcycle or whatever, right? So, and guess what? Like, brain cells, they grow back. So even if you get smashed in the head, hey, they grow back just like everything does. So I think that clearly we can probably all agree that there's programming that's better to watch, and some that's maybe not as beneficial to kids or adults, right? But like, I remember watching Beavis and Butthead on MTV, and I probably couldn't quote anything, but man, I can't imagine that there's anything high quality about that show. I mean, maybe y'all can name something.
I was actually, my mom was very strict, so I didn't get to watch a lot of shows. In fact, the one show that ranks, the leading contemporary TV shows for millennials in 2018 was The Simpsons. I couldn't watch that growing up.
Yeah,
And my wife makes fun of me all the time. She was like, "Oh, dang, you were sheltered." So, I mean, I don't know. But what was surprising to me is the leading cable network is actually Fox News. I've heard their commercials and things like that. It's like, I could never take them serious because I think everybody says, I got the best network. But apparently they were rated that way. And I was kind of shocked that a news station would overrule cartoons and sports. How does it do that?
I mean, I think that we have to understand that most of these things, like if we're talking about a kid show, a story is written usually to illustrate a point, right? Like the moral of the story or whatever. Or you can draw some of these conclusions. And when you look at some of these other TV shows like news, I mean, what's the purpose? And I would say that the purpose is to generate revenue for the people who own the news stations. And to do that, you have to get ratings. Like, what's the point in owning a football team if you can't fill a stadium and sell a bunch of merchandise? Like, I mean, it's a business, right? At the end of the day, you're in the entertainment business. And so, like, Crazy Jerry Jones doing all sorts of wild shenanigans that he does, like if it gets his ratings and he builds the biggest stadium, then there you go. And so on the news side, like, what's that equivalent? It's that shock and awe and scare you about everything that's going to kill you. Enter coronavirus.
You mentioned the money side, and one of the things I found out is I probably started out in the wrong field. I mean, I should have gone into media because, man, the average salary is $40 an hour. Did you know that?
40 what?
$40 an hour. That's
for what?
Average salary in the media industry. Kind of
Well,
great.
there you go.
Television, I guess I should say, not media.
So, I mean, they've got to generate revenue to pay those somehow, right? And
they make a ton of money. I mean, the actual TV broadcasters business as a whole, that's $41 billion. But then you got advertisement, right? That's $70 billion. So, yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's too much money, and I really think I probably should have gone into the news.
Well,
But
you still can. You're not dead yet, John. Come on.
well, maybe we'll make the show hit, and then I'll be in it, right?
So here's another thing that I want to point out too, is since Netflix, you don't have to watch commercials, right? You pay a fee and you don't get the commercials. I am loving that. So my attitude toward broadcast radio is the same as TV, in that I can't listen to broadcast radio. Like FM I'll drive in silence. I'll sing to myself, because I've really developed that I can't listen to the commercials. I've reached a point, huh?
They're overwhelming.
Like I just reached a point in my life where I just won't tolerate it. And so I pay for Pandora. And, like if I leave my phone or cable or something's not working, I'm just like, well, or I'll listen to a book. And so that's the thing that I think we need to remember too. It's not just the shows, but it's like, what are they ramming down your throat to buy? And what are you spending your money on? The next thing that you feel like you have to purchase,
See, that's funny, because I sort of a little bit love the commercials, chiefly because I find people entertaining. Like I find people funny. And when you go in and you say, I know that they are trying to sell me something. Okay. For example, we got, my husband and I were trying to go back and watch a show that we had watched years ago. It was Leverage. I don't know if you ever saw this.
Yeah.
It's like these con men, but they decide to turn for good, whatever. Anyway, but the only place you could find it was on the channel that it's free with ads. Okay. And what it doesn't say is that they're all going to be Amazon ads. Like all of these are Amazon Prime in some way or the other. They are so overtly propaganda. It's like, whoa, they don't even pretend. This is like, the stuff about global warming and it just killed me. Like we're watching pictures of trucks, but our trucks are going to save the environment. And I'm like, no, something just went click in my brain and I can't, but I'm sort of entertained by that. You know what I mean? Like to look at just the brazen advertising, like you want my mind, which kind of leads me back to the sticking point, whether we talk about, television consumption or radio or how I use my smartphone, like fill in the blank. The people are always the problem. I'm always going to be the problem. I can either, allow myself to be completely taken over by what I see, right? Everything's going to influence me. That's, like you said, that's fact. Whatever we put in, it will change something about how I think one way or the other. But I think that, I think it was Julia Child that said everything in moderation, even moderation. There's something to be said, I think, for saying that not all content is created equal, but I know that I can turn every good thing bad. And conversely, that like I could take a great show, right? I'm trying to think a documentary, something that's purely educational, and I could absolutely sit and make fun of it through the whole thing. And I have. Okay, that's a real thing for me.
Wait, are you like one of those annoying kids that we have that's like you're watching a show and they're like, oh, look at this, look at this, look at it. Wait, what? What are they doing?
Pretty much I'm that person that's like I speak up the line that I think they should have said. Like, why would you not choose the funniest option? You always have two options. You could say the funny or the not funny. Why would you? Anyway.
So we need like a version of these things with the Barbara dubbed. Right?
God. Yeah. Talk about, if you don't like commercials, you're really not going to like that. That's, yeah.
I hate to make an enemy, but Hulu, y'all can kiss my butt, man. I hate paying for services and still getting all of the advertisement.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my gosh, I feel like it's every 5 minutes they've got another commercial coming on.
Wow.
And it's more expensive. That's the thing I don't get. Hulu it's pricier than the other ones, and yeah, you get ads, and I haven't found that you get anything that you can't find elsewhere.
Well, unfortunately, I've found several shows that only Hulu has. God.
Okay. I need to get your show list then. I'm curious.
Well, one of them is Lost. Have you ever watched that show?
Okay, now we get to rant. So somebody turned me on to Lost when it first came out, okay? They're like, this is great. To be fair, I handed them a perfectly lovely show. I'm like, hey, you should watch Alias. It would be great. You guys ever watched Alias?
No.
It was, no? Oh, okay. Well, you should watch Alias. It's a great, because like it ties up beautifully. You get to the end of the show and you're like, that is satisfying. And I'm glad they didn't take it more seasons. So this friend hands me Lost. It's like, you should start this. You'll get hooked. We sat to talk about binge watching. We sat and watched all 115 billion episodes. They're all dead. What was the point of that show? Spoiler alert, sorry.
Alert.
Yeah, they're all dead. Don't watch it.
I didn't know that, but thanks for ruining it, Barbara.
Yeah, well, I'm saving you about 85 hours of television watching because I was so irritated when I got to the end. I'm like, who makes shows like this? Anyway, none of it happened.
So you'll talk about it there, you know?
I guess so. I'm still talking about it. It's like 10 years later, still talking about it.
No, I watched it when it first came out on Netflix with the DVDs, right? And my wife has never saw it or anything, so I was like, well, I'm going to torture you, so you're going to watch this all with me. So
Do you feel old when you say DVDs?
I do, but
I feel like that's like our generation's 8-track. 8-track loser. What is that? That's going to be us with DVDs. Oh, back in my day, you remember the Netflix and DVDs? Kids are going to be like, what are you saying? I just watched it on my phone.
But we're the worst because we went through the records, the tapes, CDs, DVDs.
VHS. Can't forget VHS.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I forgot VHS. And now it's like, you can't even plug in any of these things anymore. I've got all these DVDs upstairs, and it's like, oh, I kind of free on Netflix, Hulu, and all that other crap.
Mm-hmm.
So, but to go back, Barbara, I hate to go all the way back, but your topic of it being a tool, and there is actually some good to it. If you look at kidshealth.org, they actually talk about TV and that the fact that if it's not abused, if you regulate it, it could be good, especially if you give them certain shows. The problem is when you get too much, it does turn into a bad thing. So like child obesity, being overweight is a problem. They go on to talk.
Blaming the TV for that?
Yeah, I think you should probably blame the parents, but you know.
I was going to say, it seems like it's the people thing that still,
Yeah,
and
right?
Diet.
Well, but they do less activity, right? Because
yeah, but it don't matter, man. Like your weight is controlled by your diet. You can go out and run 5 miles and eat 1 donut, and you just blew it. It's activity versus food. There's no amount of activity that you can do to make up for a poor diet. I would like bet my life on you. Look at anyone who's overweight. Like, yes, it's true that they're not active, but that's not why they're overweight. It's because they're drinking the Route 44 Dr. Peppers and, you know. Anyway, I digress. TV.
Well, so
sorry.
One of the
sounds like it needs to be its own show.
Yeah.
One of the things they go on to talk about is violent acts will come out in kids if they watch certain TV shows and play violent video games. The problem I have with that, and I'm going to use TV against them, is if you've ever watched that show Adam Ruins Everything, they actually go into detail about how video games actually don't make kids more violent. It was just a myth because of a political gain somebody wanted to make one time. So I have to disagree with that website on that. But then I could possibly be on board with this next one. It says characters on TV and in video games often depict risky behavior such as smoking and drinking, and also reinforce gender roles and racial stereotypes. I could see that being a big problem, especially when we're trying to teach our kids to not be some of these things.
So what if it's not so much the video game is causing violent behavior, but more that it ceases to be startling to them? Do you think there's some, like if I think about shows that I, was allowed to watch when I was younger compared to now, there are things now that I think that we watch where it's still an appalling thing. Like the violence in itself, like it should be shocking, but we've seen so much of it that maybe it's not.
So I
Is
played
that
a,
a
I played a lot of video games growing up, and I haven't killed anybody yet. So I'd have to disagree with that
You're
stat.
pretty young. I'm just saying, like there's time.
Well, but still, I mean, if Alton yells at me enough, I'll cry. So I'm clearly not violent.
I
Or you
mean,
grew up watching Lifetime. That's possible too. I mean, who says that it's all violence?
I mean, here's the thing. I've always struggled with like blaming something. So I definitely played all the fighting games. I trained martial arts, and at a young age, I was hunting. So I was literally killing birds and small game and deer and gutting them and processing the meat. And so like even at a young age, I had actually taken something's life. I caught a fish and killed it and then ate it, right? I mean, in Grand Theft Auto, if you run up to a car and shoot somebody, does that make you want to go and do it? I'm just kind of like, maybe you have an angry kid and he wants to like punch people and he plays a video game because he likes punching people, and then he's a bully on the playground too. And they're all just kind of fulfilling this thing of,
They're not redirecting their anger in
right,
better ways.
right.
Like getting them in jujitsu might actually help a kid like that, right?
Yeah, get punched in the mouth. Maybe now you're not so inclined to go out and do those things. But I think that all of the content that we expose ourselves to is either shaping or reinforcing our current realities. And so I think with some of the news channels, they're going to reinforce this fear of, oh, these bad things are happening, check your water, check your food, check your everything, and maybe you already have some of those tendencies and they reinforce that. Whereas, I was talking about it before the show. I was watching some of the shows that my kids watch and Disney, and I'm just like barfing the whole time. I'm like, man, y'all need to watch a real show like Flipper. And so I was trying to find one on YouTube, and I'm in the first 5 minutes of it. I'm like, man, look at the family connection here. Look at the morals that are being expressed. Look at the connection with nature and wanting to, they fish and catch fish and lobster and whatever, but they also like protect this environment that they're in. And when some people come in to threaten it, they're like defending that, but they still love these people and they want to try to like correct the behavior and not just shoot them. And then you compare that to like Grand Theft Auto, and I'm just like, wait a second. Now, I know that's not a TV show, but.
So, going back to that, I have played a lot of video games and I've been around a lot of people that have played it. None of them are really violent people. Now, I will say I do have a kid and he does have a sensory disorder. I can tell you for sure that video games agitate him more than the average Joe, right? So, I compared it the other day. We were playing together, playing that game Fortnite. I'm addicted to it, apparently. But, we're playing it and I'll get killed. And he's better than me, unfortunately. So I'll get killed. He'll still be alive, and I'm laughing about the guy that jumped up and got me. And, a few minutes later, I'm able to watch what's going on his screen. He gets killed and he's like, stupid hacker, he spammed me. What the crap? It's like, whoa, what just happened here? I don't think it's the video game per se. I think he has these sensory issues and he doesn't know how to handle it. And it is part of the thing that they've talked about in some of the counseling where you got to limit certain time frames for electronics and things like that because it's too much overload for people with issues like that. Now, having said that, even his outbursts, I don't view him to be violent. He just can't calm down per se.
Yeah, but that's like me with the Cowboys game, so
Yes.
I mean, I'm, a full-on adult and I can't even manage my emotions there, right? But I recognize that. And so I think that, like Barbara's saying, you you got to be careful on what you're exposing yourself to, and the TV is definitely, you know, exposing yourself to something, and you need to be guarding that.
It's kind of, I discovered probably a month ago that it is not healthy at this moment in my life to watch the news. I I'm not sure that I am, I don't know if anyone is, but I don't think I am wired to process all the tragedies of the world all at once. Like, I think that it kind of, for me anyway, like it makes me pay attention way out there, but then I can ignore what's happening in my own community. And so I've really, like, I've pulled myself away from a lot of the news. Just because I like, maybe there's probably people that are, you guys are probably able to handle it just fine. Well, you talk about sensory input. You have that Flipper song in my head now. Call him Flipper, Flipper, faster than
Yeah, I was singing it
lightning.
to my girls, right? And they're like, "Dad, you weirdo." But see, like, look, that's it. It's been 25 years since I've watched that show, and I could just sing
Yep,
it, right? So
for
what's
days.
going on with the with the TV? It's putting in your head. It's there, and so I think that that's important. And I guess I guess that's my big aha with the
So,
TV.
so here's my big argument though. What about people like me who don't like reading, don't retain stuff as well when you read, and you're more visual, you
I
know?
don't buy that, John. I know you say that, but
But you just
I'm not
said you
convinced.
memorized a song from 25 years ago. I don't remember that song. I remember the show because I love Dolphins because of it. But no, I mean, if I watch the news, I can retain some statistics just one after the other. If I were to read it, I read it and I'm done with it. Like the stuff I quoted earlier, I couldn't tell you because I read it. But I think a visual learner still needs quite a bit of TV is the problem. So if you were to try to cut it out, limit it, that could be a problem, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. I think that, like with everything, you got to be making decisions per person, per family as to what works for you. Kind of like we've talked about with school, but we've talked about lots of things. Like, it's the one size fits all. To say, I feel like if we as a nation said, okay, at 1 hour and 15 minutes per day, it has to be shut off. Like, we're just gonna, then I think we would end up with different problems, like what you're saying. What about the people that are visual learners? You would miss something, I think.
Yeah. So one of the things that I found when I was looking all this up is if you go to everydayhealth.com, they actually list 5 ways TV binging might hurt your health. So I guess let's go over those. So the first one was physical inactivity. They say that it increases it increases your body mass index by 25%. That's quite a bit.
What, like every time you watch, or like, because I'm doing the math on this does not add up.
Like eating donuts.
Right, one donut and I'm done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe, like, over a lifetime, or how do they tabulate that? That's
John's gonna have to apologize for his statistics again.
No, I'm just never going to invite Barbara back on to question me all the time.
Secretly, that's why I don't read the stats.
sorry. Okay.
No,
Forget
but
I said that. Keep going.
no, it's like Alton said, right? To every statistic, there's 20 more questions you got to ask.
Well,
And
it's correlation or causation. I mean, that's the thing. So are we correlating the idea that, hey, you sit on the couch for 4 hours every day and you're also fat?
just
Or
remember, my job is to bring you the statistics and then y'all argue about it. I don't
Don't shoot the messenger. Got it.
Yeah,
But, yeah.
That's the good point about our show, right? So we bring you these statistics, we talk about them, we bring up these points just like we've done in some of these hot topics with race and coronavirus and all that. And that's what's great. So I guess let me take the time right now. If you're listening or watching, you really got to go check out some of our other shows and see what we cover, because we don't tell you what you need to be thinking. We give you food for thought. We want you to make up your own mind, come up with your own decisions. So make sure to click like and subscribe to us. That way you can check those things out, especially the new ones that are coming up. and find out your Barbara C option that she's going to give you on some of these, I'm sure.
Yeah, and like that one show we did with Barbara, it's about homeschool. So, you have that friend who's homeschooling right now, and you can just share that with that. See, look, your kids are going to be weird or not. I don't know. Have to check out the show.
So jumping back in, number 2 that they listed was the snacking and poor dietary intake. Habitual eating, distracted eating is what they also call it, which is kind of your donut thing. I'm going to blame myself on that one for sure, because you talk about football. Yeah, I'm drinking scotch or drinking beer with it. So, that's a whole.
You'd have to if you're watching the Cowboys.
Oh, that's 3 or 4, right? Are you
Do you
really
get a lot of
looking over there? Like, when was the last time you watched a game?
I think last year was the first year that I didn't watch a single football game. So check this out. It's kind of a weird morph in my life where like I have all these friends that love football and they don't invite me. And at first I was like, I'm losing friends, but these are people that I love, but I'm not losing them. They're just like, I'm not inviting Alton over because he's either, I don't know what they're thinking, but in my own head, I'm thinking that they're like, he's either going to want to talk about something else during the game because he's bored, or he's going to make fun of me for watching it. And I can't take the pressure. So maybe
I tell you what, watch this year's Dallas versus the Atlanta Falcons game. You'll be in awe on what happens.
I'm just out, man.
You gotta. It's crazy. Anywho,
I can tell that if we're gonna do the show together, that I need to get you guys watching kind of a better sport. You guys ever watch roller derby?
You're all tatted up. You are a roller derby girl, aren't you?
Oh yeah, I played for a few years till I talk about concussions and destroyed my knee. But anyway, it's a much faster paced game. I can't stay awake through football. There's just too many.
I watch racing for at least 10 minutes before I fall asleep.
Yeah, that's the perfect show to put you to sleep.
I've grounded my kids for turning it off in the middle. I'm like, hey, because I'll wake up. Like, you turn it off. Then I wake up and I'm like, who turned it off? They're like, Dad, you were sleeping. And I'm like, shut up.
That's why everybody left your party the other day. You turned on motorcycle racing. Everybody's like, I'm done with poker. Bye.
That's right.
Okay, now, going back, number 3, social isolation. Watching alone is good in moderation to de-stress, but watching with family is better, of course, like we've talked about, and can contribute to happiness and overall sense of well-being, is what they say.
But what if your family won't watch motorcycle racing with you?
Then you need to watch better shows.
Everyone's in there. I turn on motorcycle racing and they leave.
There is a connection there, I think. Yeah.
Watch it, Pet Detective. You'll be good.
I'm just wanting to do some family time. Nobody wants to hang out with me. I don't know what it is. Maybe I need a shower.
So number 4 here is one of the ones that it was kind of new to me. It was it's sleep disturbance and poor sleep quality. They say that watching TV interferes with the ability to cool down and shut the brain off at the end of the day. So I started thinking about it, and I could actually see that being a problem with me that I need to obviously fix. But
yeah, my show, y'all have I've let you believe that I don't watch any TV, but I've been watching Blacklist. And anyway, it's like the plot is nuts, and there's, people getting shot and tortured and whatever in it. And when I go to sleep, I'm like still thinking like, oh, what's going to happen next? But if it's late already, I'll usually grind out like a quick 5-minute video of Fail Army where people are just, falling and hurting themselves or whatever. That never keeps me awake. I'm like, oh, look, he fell. So I think that one could still be content dependent.
Yeah, I think that's real though. The sleep hygiene thing. Like, I have kids that have had major sleep disorders, and so we get the crash course from the sleep doctors every time, and like that's a real thing. There's something. I don't know if it's the light. I don't think it's actually content. Although that could mess you up with what what you're thinking about when you fall asleep. Something about the light, though, it messes up your brain's production of melatonin, and
Yeah,
so
the
it's
blue
like
light.
it'll actually throw off your bedtime,
Yeah.
your ability to fall asleep.
So they actually said the problem with it is it leaves a whole, like, people get addicted to shows like Lost and wanting to see what the crap's going to happen in the next episode. It's those cliffhangers and everything that gets them thinking, and then they become addicted. Then they stay up later trying to watch the next episode. And then it actually bleeds into your everyday activities is what the biggest problem is. You try to catch this while you're working or while you're supposed to be at church or whatever it may be.
Of course, that's true with books too. I'm just gonna say, like, it's not just TV.
Really?
Like, if I get a book that I am hooked on, I can absolutely stay up all night reading this book and neglect someone's, if I'm supposed to be making them a meal. If I'm hooked enough, like, I think, again, goes back to the problem is me, not so much the tool that I'm.
Yep.
So number 5, and that's the last one, is behavioral addiction. So that latches on to the being addicted, wanting to catch that next episode, not wanting to go outside because she'd rather see what's coming up next. I mean, when they have these riots, I hate the riots, but at the same time, I'm like, man, I got to turn on the news and watch who's going to get blown up and waiting for the army to come in and start shooting some. I'm addicted to the drama and I hate it. But what can you do? So that's where I stand on it.
Yeah, that's probably a real thing.
I think that, I think you got to look at TV and every activity that you enjoy and see where it fits in the bigger picture. I remember one time Heather and I were walking through the neighborhood, and this is like, I'm pretty quick to say like you're dumb for watching TV, but I also watch TV. I believe.
But you're saying I'm dumber because I watch SpongeBob.
Definitely. It's clear. Like, we were walking through the neighborhood and I'm just like looking inside people's houses, and this is what I see. Like there was one night where I swear I saw like 20 different houses that everyone's just sitting in front of the TV, and my brain went into like the zombie apocalypse, that everyone was being brainwashed and hypnotized by their TV. Because I'm like, look at this, Heather, it's nuts. Like, everyone is just literally sitting there stuck to the couch, like totally addicted. And so I think that's like a big issue, that when you start looking at, like, when I see the numbers, I'm like, oh man, this is crazy from that aspect.
But here's the problem I have. So we talked about going to bed right after watching TV. If I didn't watch TV, what the crap am I going to do? Am I just going to stare at the ceiling, or do I have to talk to the wife? What?
You might get more rub downs, just saying. But.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, I was, so I'm in this, I've got this friend, she's 78 years old. And over the summer, she said, I think that I am neglecting my husband. I don't think I'm doing a good job with my husband. And of course, we're thinking like, okay, what are you on instead? Like, we're all thinking social media. Are you stuck on a screen? She's like, well, I think I read my book while he's talking. Like, so it turns out that if you're going to ignore your spouse, you don't need a TV to do it, right? Like, we kind of have this in us either way. And so, yeah, what would you do if you weren't watching TV? Well, probably, your relationship could be similar. You're either going to pay a lot of attention to it, in which case you're going to stay engaged even while you're watching TV, or you're not going to pay a lot of attention to it, in which case, even if you're sitting doing crossword puzzles, you're not going to be engaged. It's the humans that are the problem.
Learn how to be awkward like Alton. That could be the new thing.
I mean, it's a thing. It's true.
An art worth studying.
I would probably do more shopping though if I did this, because I'd have to. I have to do something. I'm either going to run in circles around the neighborhood or annoy my wife.
Here's the thing: like, when Heather and I were on our anniversary, I guess like a quick backstory. You know, I quit my 9 to 5 2.5, 3 years ago, and I've just been grinding like crazy on the business. Now 2020, it's like, man, it's just nuts. I found that we went on our 18-year anniversary. I said, babe, I need to relax and I don't want to go like mask with everybody. So like, let's just chill. I found it more difficult than any time ever in life to just chill out. And I'm looking at myself like I can't even sit still. Like I've like I got issues or something. I'm like, I can't even sit here. And so anyway, I guess my point with that is like, you still have to look at yourself. And I think that it's good to be entertained. And a TV is a good way to kind of decompress to some degree. Yeah.
So I guess before we do our deciding factor, I did happen to find a story from a family that was watching a lot of TV, and then they decided to stop having TV for a whole month, like no TV, period. So they went on this month-long journey without TV. They spent more time as a family is what came of it. They had better routines. They did more reading, which, by the way, I recently saw a brain and spine doctor, and he actually said that reading books actually makes you smarter. And the reason for his theory, right, is when we're students at school, we're constantly reading. When we're in college, we're reading more and more and more. Then we stop reading for the majority of us after we graduate. And then things get worse and worse. So he actually said that you have to keep reading in order to maintain your full brain function. So I'm trying to read more, but it's just not working out. Anywho, so instead of listening to the TV or watching the TV to get all their news, they would listen to the radio for their news. They wouldn't overdo it. They felt physically and mentally better. And they said that they felt a lot less stressed. Now, they even go, obviously, into more details about what each step felt like, but they found themselves going to bed at like 8:30, which is, I think, crazy. But just to think about going a month without it is ridiculous. I couldn't do it.
I think in everything that you do, you need to fast. And I think a TV fast is a great thing. I think a phone fast is a great thing to do. I mean, I'm fixing to head into the mountains to go elk hunting, and I'm going to sleep on the ground in a tent, and it's going to be freezing, and it's going to be not enjoyable, that part. Like, it's not that enjoyable. But when I get back to my bed, I'm like, oh, look, a bed, a warm wife. Now, this is the way to do it, and you appreciate it more. So I think that that's a great point, that even if, whatever you're going to do, I mean, food, I use the word fast. I think you should be fasting from food, fasting from coffee, just to give yourself that break. I think that that's healthy for whatever it is, even if it's just a day. And I had a friend, he had like no tech Tuesday. There's no phones, no TVs. And they're just like, Tuesday's our family night where we play games or read or whatever, but you're not TVing. So, you just had that Sabbath, I guess, for the TV and technology, which just a good reset.
We did actually do something like that a few years ago. By accident, we had a blackout. And so my husband and I, we're cooking dinner outside and everything because we had no electricity. And it turned out that it was the best conversation. We had such a good time. We had blackout dates every single week for I don't know how long. We'd actually flip the breakers so that you couldn't accidentally turn on a light or something, which I know is weird, but it is that idea. Like, you look at it differently when you come at it fresh. It's kind of what sleep does for us every night, right? Like, you get to tackle the day anew.
So it was Blackout Wednesday or what?
It'd be Tuesdays, but it'd be Blackout Tuesdays. And it'd be we'd get the kids to bed and then we'd just flip the breakers. And it was fun. Honestly, it was it kind of worked a different part of your brain. How am I going to heat this food if I have no electricity? And there's ways. It was fun.
Go to McDonald's. That's what you do.
Right? You can use somebody else's electricity.
Is that finding a loophole or what?
I think
I
so.
think that's pretty good. Pretty good option C.
All right, so let's answer the question: how much TV, or how much is too much TV?
Now it's time for our deciding factor.
So, you know, I am still a big fan of TV. I really think the problem is the types of shows that we're doing. And I kind of almost feel like even after learning the SpongeBob thing is maybe we need Surgeon General warnings on these programs like, hey, this might cause seizures, but that it also goes back to the parenting on our kids though. So if you let your kids watch whatever, you're saying it's okay. If they put out a vision that you don't agree with, maybe it's a religious view, it's on you. It's not the kids. It's not the TV show. You're not paying attention. I think it also depends on the individual themselves. Like if they have a sensory disorder, dude, it's got to get cut down. It really does. So you got to be aware of that. But I mean, there's a lot of good things that can still come from it. Like I said, me and my wife, we spend time at nighttime watching and cuddling, watching shows. If we didn't have that, I would have to find some other way to entertain me, which probably would be video games, or I have to get, running around the block. Now, I will say if I watch less TV during the daytime, I would probably exercise more. And I need to, but, all I have is Alton wanting to put me in a chokehold is what'll happen if I actually start getting active. So I don't really know how to answer this one other than maybe we do less or in moderation and worry about the time that you do it. I don't see any problem at nighttime, when everybody's in bed, the 7 to 10 hour or maybe the 9 to 11 hour. But I would be worried about that sleep deprivation issue that we talked about. What do you think, Barbara?
I think there's no such thing as a safe number. I think if we were to set a number that we determined like this means enough and not too much, then maybe we don't pay attention to what we're watching during that time. I think that we are never off the hook for paying attention to our lives. So you're going to, at the point that the television is dictating more to your life than you are dictating to the television, then you've got a problem. And whether you readjust what you're watching or the hours that you're watching it or how many hours, I think the call is to be paying attention to what we're taking in and to what we're having our kids take in. I don't think it's a magic number.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all different. I think that we need to be looking at our life as a whole, and we need to be imagining, what is my life meaning? Like, what is the goal for my life? When Alton dies and y'all come to my funeral, and like, what was the whole point? And how does TV fit in with that? And so I think we each have to figure out on our own, what role does TV play in the life? I think oftentimes TV is used as a drug to cope with the fact that maybe our life isn't that great, or filling a void for something else. I think if we were going to look at a number, I would ask you to consider a ratio. If you're going to watch 2 hours of TV in the day, did you exercise for 2 hours that day? Did you read a book for 2 hours in a day? If you think reading a book for 2 hours in a day is stupid and impossible, but you can watch 4 hours of TV, I think that you should question if that is the right ratio of 0 reading to 4 hours of TV. Is that what it should be? If it's 0 hours of exercise and 4 hours of TV, does that make sense? could you trade in 1 hour of the 4 of TV to an hour of walking around the block? Still get the 3 hours in of TV and also get some exercise. Maybe it would help you sleep a little bit. So I'm definitely not anti-TV. Heather and I definitely watch it in the evening, John, like you were mentioning. I rarely get to it in the day. I feel like on my Sabbath day, though, I like to watch racing because I like it. and that's like the closest thing I can get to doing it right now. So I'm using that as like my own coping mechanism.
See, I think I get more, and I'm sorry to cut you off. I get more angry that they take away some of my shows.
Like, it just has to fit into our life, right? Everybody knows Alton likes motorcycle racing. It shouldn't be any surprise that I want to watch some motorcycle racing, right? Used to love football. Now I'm too immature to watch it. So I'm cutting it out, like I've recognized that. But I read a lot and I exercise a lot. And so at the end of the day, if I put in 12 hours of work and gone to jujitsu for 2 hours, I dare anybody to stand there to my face and tell me I can't watch an hour or two of TV. You can forget it. I earned that to sit there and relax, right?
You can stay awake that long. That is intense. I'm doing the math on
day,
this. Hold on.
all day.
That's a long day.
All the time. That's why I'm nuts. Anyhow, I want to challenge everyone to do the fast, no matter what it is. If you've never done it, I think you owe it to yourself to force that break. Like, John, I'm gonna call you out, man. I'm gonna challenge you. Turn the TV off, look at your wife, and just sit there. Figure it out. You might have a lot of fun,
He's gonna call you and be like, "What on earth did you do to my husband?"
Hey, I'm just saying, try it. If you don't like it, great. But I think from the story that you read and from the story that Barbara was sharing, there could be some real nuggets of greatness in there if we take that break. And I'm a big coffee drinker, right? But every once in a while I'm like, am I controlling the coffee or is the coffee controlling me? And so I'll take a break, and usually ends up I sleep most of the day, which I don't like. But anyway, yeah, I think that's it, is how is it helping you reach your goals? And if you're sitting here like, I don't have any goals, Alton, well, you certainly shouldn't be watching TV if you don't have any goals. So I hope I offended a lot of people with my stance on TV. That's what I think about it.
So let's end with this. What's your favorite TV show?
TV show, not movie, right?
Yeah, TV show.
I'm actually going to say Frasier, which sounds really mindless, but
Really?
the humor cracks me up. It's a go-to.
Huh. What about you, Big Al?
I'm kind of struggling with this one. I watched this show that was really good. It was based out of Miami. It was about a spy. He had a lot of sarcasm.
Is it Burn Notice?
Yes.
Ah,
That's a really good one.
Burn Notice. I was pretty disappointed how that one ended. It just kind of fell flat at the end. But I did really enjoy that show. That's a good one. That's kind of like my style. Like, we're gonna kill you, but we're gonna make you laugh too. So,
and I really, growing up, I loved Tim the Toolman Taylor, right? Home Improvement.
yeah.
Loved it. And then they came out with Last Man Standing.
Oh yeah, I'm a big Last Man Standing fan for
Man,
sure. Because I have all these girls in my house, right?
Yeah. No, it's a really funny show. I can't get enough. Here's the problem. My favorite show was canceled because apparently being a cop is offensive. So Live PD got canceled, and that was my favorite show. I mean, I went out and got the Philo app just so I had A&E in my channel lineup. They kicked it, and it was like, all right, see you, Philo. I don't need you. So
See, I like Last Man Standing because he's white and he's got that neighbor that's black, and they're like racist toward each other. And to me, it's funny because they're so real. And now we're living in 2020 where everything's offensive, and I'm like, can't we just like make fun of each other and not cry about it like babies? I mean, look, I'm not saying that there's not real race problems, right? But man.
Oh yeah, me and my wife have the race issue all the time. So don't come over to our house. You'll laugh too much, or you might get offended too much. One or the other.
I mean, I was in a meeting today, and like one of the icebreaker questions was, what is one skill that you think everyone must have? And like this guy, I forget the exact word he used, but basically he's like, you need to have thick skin. You need to be able to just like be tougher. And I was like, amen, man. I wish I could dose that. Can we make a vaccine for wimpy people?
Yeah, but we wouldn't get it. It's like, oh, the poke bothers me.
I'll run around drugging people. There we go. New business venture. All
right, guys. Well, it was fun. I appreciate y'all chiming in.
Don't forget to share with all the people that are easily offended. Right, John?
Yeah, we just don't want to build up too many enemies, right?
What? No way, man. I want to be loved for who I am, not loved for who I'm not. I'm not trying to accommodate anybody here.
I really feel like you ought to send this episode to the Dallas Cowboys, though. I feel like there's a fan base there that you're missing.
Jerry, you got to work to get him back on the team. Come on, Jerry. Let's do this. All right, guys. Y'all say bye.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
This has been another episode of The Deciding Factor, giving you food for thought on real life issues. Be sure to click, like, and subscribe to this podcast, as well as all your big social media outlets, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Don't forget to check out our website at thedecidingfactorpodcast.com and give us comments and feedback. Until next time, stay safe and remember to keep an open mind.